making the Super Bowl. All right, so last time we talked 2 weeks ago, anybody remember what we talked about? 2 weeks ago, I know it's tough.
Being a child of God versus a child of the devil?
Yep, that's what we talked about, but we talked about half of it. What half did we talk about?
Being a child of the devil.
Being a child of the devil. Good, you got it. Anybody remember the 2 points? The 2 things that describe or characterize a child of the devil or an unbeliever, someone who does not know the Lord. Anybody remember that? I'll be impressed if you guys remember.
Breakdancing baby.
There was a breakdancing baby, yes. But that's not a characteristic of the son of the devil. No one? Alright, they hate what is right, and the one who stands for it, and they are, what's the last one?
Well, I thought
That was
I
kind of
gonna say
combined.
they love what's wrong. I don't know.
Yeah. And they are unwilling to sacrifice, right? Anybody remember that now? Or did y'all still forget? Yeah, and those of you who weren't here have no idea what I'm talking about. Well, we're going through 1 John, and we are in the last part of chapter 3, and we've been talking about what it looks like to be a son of the devil, or an unbeliever, or a son of God, a believer. And tonight, we are talking about what it looks like to be a son of God. So we're going to go ahead, and we can see if anyone can read this. It looked better on my computer. Does anybody really enjoy reading and would like to read it for us? You got it. Can you read it? Is it clear enough?
This we love, and that laid down his life for us, and we ought to lay down our lives for the brothers. But if anyone has the world's goods and see his brothers in need, yet closes his heart against him, how does God abide in him? Little children, let us not love in the world or talk, but in deed and in the truth. Okay, sorry, I was cut off. By this we shall know that that we are the truth and
Reassure.
Or our heart before him. For whenever our heart condemns us, God is greater than our heart, and he knows everything. Beloved, if and whatever he asks, we receive from him, because he keeps his commandments and do what pleases him. And this is a commandment that we believe in the name of the Son of Jesus Christ, and love one another just as he commands us. Whoever keeps his commandments abides in God, and God in him, and this we know that he abides in us. Father, the Spirit will us without fear.
Great, thank you. What's your name? Brandon?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, that's good. I couldn't, when I was reading this earlier, I messed up many times, and it's bigger on my paper, and there's not a fan sticking in the way either, so that's good. All right, last week we had 2 points. This week we have 2 points. I think it's easier for just 2 points. Otherwise, I might go way longer than I'm supposed to. So this week we are looking at what it looks like to be a son of God. What makes them different than an unbeliever? What makes us different than someone who doesn't know the Lord? That's what we're going to talk about. So, first characteristic. Actually, what's cool is before we get on, tonight we're talking about what it looks like. But as well as we go through these are things that give us an assurance of our salvation. It gives us a confidence to know that we are saved, that we are children of God. And that's really what verses 19 through 21 is really talking about. We're just gonna mention them a little bit tonight, but kind of go around those as well. So, first characteristic of a son of God is that we love our brothers and our sisters. And the 2 points, guys, I'll just be honest with you, aren't super deep. All right. And if you ever read the book of, I can't sit on that stool. It's not a stool. You can't sit on it.
My dad sat on it.
It's broken in every spot. Anyway, so the stuff isn't like super deep, guys. But honestly, I think John, and he says this over and over again, if you read the book of John, he always talks about loving our brothers, and I'm not going to give away the second one, but he always talks about it. All right, and I think the reason is because we need the reminder over and over again. So last week we mentioned this, that this love is a sacrificial love. And that's seen in verse 16. It says, by this we know love, that he laid down his life for us, and we ought to lay down our lives for the brothers. That's in verse 16. But I want you to think, all right, guys? When you think of living forever, you ever think about that for a long time? And it like hurts your brain because you can't like imagine what it means to live forever. So now we're going to work in reverse. I want you to think of forever in the past. Okay, eternity past. Okay, who was around then? Anybody? Yep. Right. Yep. You got it. God. All right. So we have God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit. All right. They're around for eternity past. All right. And we're going to focus on the relationship between God the Father, God the Son. All right. They have been around forever. All right. We can't even grasp what that means. I encourage you to keep thinking about it. You'll really hurt your brain. All right.
I don't
But-
have a brain.
Thank you, Jamin. But, guys, I want you to think. They have a relationship that we could never have. They have been around forever. But I want you to notice what God the Father does, and we talked about it last week, John 3:16. Who knows it?
God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish but have everlasting life.
Okay, good. All right. From eternity past, since forever, God the Father and God the Son had a relationship, and now God the Father is deciding to give up his Son for you and for me. You talk about sacrifice, and we talked about it last week. You know, it's not giving up like hand-me-downs that you don't want anymore, you know, the leftovers. No, it's giving up something of value, something that you hold dear. God the Father was willing to give up his Son for you and for me, to have a relationship. That's sacrifice, but we also see it in God the Son, in Jesus. And Jesus said in John 15:12, this is my commandment, that you love one another, as I have loved you. Greater love has no one than this, that someone lay down his life for his friends. So we see that Jesus, he was willing to give up his life. You talk about something, what's the most valuable thing that you have? It's your own life. He was willing to give that up for you and for me. Little quote from C.S. Lewis in his book, The Four Loves. He says, to love at all is to be vulnerable. Love anything and your heart will certainly be wrung up and possibly broken. If you want to make sure of keeping it intact, you must give your heart to no one, not even to an animal. Wrap it carefully, round with hobbies and little luxuries. Avoid all entanglements. Lock it up safe in the casket or coffin or your selfishness. But in that casket, safe, dark, motionless, airless, it will change. It will no longer be broken. It will become unbreakable, impenetrable, irredeemable. The only place outside of heaven where you can be perfectly safe from all the dangers of love is hell. Wow, man, that's pretty harsh. All right? What he's saying here, guys, is when you choose to love someone, it's going to cost you something. It's not like you love someone and you automatically get this like good little feeling in your stomach. Okay, that's not necessarily how it works. When you choose to love someone, you're putting yourself out there to be hurt, to be rejected. So some of you are like, you know what? When we look at Jesus, and I keep going too fast, and you guys know what the next point is. Anyway, but you guys, you know, we're sitting here, we're like, you know what? We see that Jesus was willing to give up his life for his friends, and he did that. All right. But most of us here probably don't have that option right now. That's not something that we're facing like, I'm going to actually give up my life for my best friend right now, right? We're not facing that. But most of us here would probably like to think that we would, right? You'd like to say, think of your best friend. Everyone got it? You'd like to think that you give your life for him, right? Because you love him. Someone once said that it's easier to die for Christ than to live for Christ. Okay, because most of the time that you can say I die for Christ, but it's a lot harder to live. And I think sometimes it's much easier for us to say that we would die for our friends than to learn how to actually love them today and to carry that out in the little areas. So I want you to think, what are ways that I want you to think of, how many of you have brothers and sisters? Everyone here? Older, younger, both? If you have younger brothers or sisters or older, how do you love them? What do you sacrifice? What do you sacrifice to love them? Yeah. Hey guys, pay attention over here.
Quiet.
What was that?
Quiet.
Quiet? Like being quiet? Or you
Having
you
quiet
sacrifice
in the
your
house.
quietness for them to be loud? Good, good. Anybody else?
Free time.
Free time? Yeah, you sacrifice your time to spend with them. There's not like a wrong answer here. I thought that was a hand. It was just a quick pull the hair back. That was good. Yeah, so when you think about it, when we sacrifice for people and for our family, it's our time, it's our attention. Sometimes it might be a material thing that we can give up. Not just to your family, but also your friends. How many of you go to Gloucester? Good amount. I went to Gloucester as well. I'm telling you, if we learned how to love each other, I mean, just imagine a place with all believers, and I know everyone claims to be a believer there, and there probably aren't everyone, I mean, probably everyone there isn't saved. But when you look at it, probably the majority is, and if everyone there learned how to love each other, what a wonderful place that would be, right? All right. Second thing, this love is a love in action. It says in verse 18, little children, let us not love in word or talk, but in deed and in truth. Sorry. And John 15:12, once again, through 13, it says, this is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. Greater love has no one than this, that someone lay down his life for his friends. And then in Ephesians 5:12, it says, and walk in love as Christ loved us and gave himself up for us, a fragrant offering and sacrifice to God. So we know that Jesus didn't just say the greatest love is to give your life for friends. No, we know the whole story. He actually did it. You know, we hear the phrase, talk is cheap, right? You hear that a lot. And it is. Why? Because you can talk all you want, but unless you actually do it, it means nothing, right? Like you hear it in sports, you probably hear it all the time. Especially when you watch like professionals. There's a lot of trash talking, right? But it means nothing unless you can back it up, right? Yeah. So same thing with this idea of love. It's not good enough just to say I love you. It's not good enough. They need to be able to see that you love them. So I have a little brother and a little sister, and most of the time growing up, you know, I always felt like they were, you know, my little brother. If you have younger siblings, you might know what it's like. I think they're like annoying, right? Well, my brother I thought was like annoying, and my sister, yeah, she could be annoying too sometimes, even though she's only like a year younger than me. But I don't know what happened in like junior high, and this may not be any of you, but in junior high, like I turned cool. Like elementary, you can do whatever you want, and you don't care what people think, because you're a little kid and it's fun. But when you come into junior high, you're like cool stuff now, right? And you care what people think. And for whatever reason, I cared what people thought, how I treated them. Like, for whatever reason, I didn't want people to know that, like, I actually liked them. Like, it was cooler for me to say, yeah, that's just my annoying brother, than to say, my brother's really cool and I like him and I love him. You know, like, it was much easier to make fun of him. So, for me, my selfishness and my pride, and I was too cool to actually love my little brother and my sister. And for me, what's even worse is that even growing up, this is what was hard for me. I had trouble saying those words to my siblings, that I love you. Like, I was embarrassed to tell my little brother, I love you, or tell my sister, hey Kayla, I love you. That was hard for me. I was embarrassed. Not only to like actually live it out and show it to people, but I had trouble with the first part. Just saying I love you. Guys, that shouldn't be. We should not let our pride and what other people think determine how we love people, especially our family. So the first characteristic of a son of God is that we have a love for our brothers and sisters. The second, here we go. I'm getting used to the PowerPoint. You guys are lucky.
Sneak preview.
That's right. You get a little sneak preview. The second thing is that we are obedient to the Lord. And first of all, when you guys hear this, have you guys heard this like 1,000 times, like to be obedient to God, right? How many times have you heard that? Like 1,000,000? If you're growing up in a Christian home, you hear it all the time. If you go to Gloucester, you hear it all the time. What's that song? Obedience is the very best way to show that you believe.
Doing exactly what the Lord commands.
Doing it happily.
Action is the key. Do it immediately.
Alright, well you guys got it, alright? Anyway, there's a song in Gloucester that they sing, and you sing it over and over again, and it's, you hear the word obedience all the time. You know, and growing up, you hear it all the time as well. So, I just want to answer the question, why? Why should we be obedient to God? Wow, we got coughing and sneezing all at the same time, alright. So why? Why are we to be obedient to the Lord? First reason, He commands us. And some of us already are like, that's not good enough. You know, like I would rather not do something because someone just tells me to, right? When your parents say, hey, don't do this, what's the first thing you want to do? Do it. Alright, when I was younger, we're going to use this illustration throughout the next couple points. When I was younger, like 5, we had a mandatory nap time on Sunday afternoons. Like my parents said, everyone is, until you get to a certain age, I forget how old, you're taking a nap. But for me, that was fun, because nap time was the time I knew, like it was my time to myself. Like I could do kind of whatever I wanted and get away with it most of the time. Because my parents were, trying to rest and get a break from me. Right? So it was fun. And you ask my mom, like I did a lot of things. I probably got in the most trouble during nap time because I didn't sleep. Alright, so one of the rules was that you were not allowed to jump on the bunk beds. Me and my older brother had bunk beds, and they were these nice wooden bunk beds, and they weren't like one stacked on the other, like one and then the other one was kind of out to the side like this. So it made it perfect that you could jump off the top bunk, onto the bottom, then off. And you could do it 1,000,000 times, and like for a 5-year-old, that's like the ultimate like adrenaline rush. You jump off your bed onto another bed and be fine. You could do as many tricks as you wanted. The time in the air felt like forever, right? But my parents told me, don't do it. They commanded me. They said, this is a rule we have, don't do it. For me, struggling inside, like I know I should obey my parents. It's so much fun. So, I continued to do it. I continued to jump off the bed, do whatever. At this point, my older brother was out of nap time, so it was really just me in the room, which made it even more fun. But we're going to hold on, and we're going to go back to the rest of that story later. Deuteronomy 11:1 says, you shall therefore love the Lord your God and keep His commandments, keep His charge, His statutes, His rules, and His commandments always. Guys, it should be enough that God tells us not to do something, and we should obey Him. But what's cool is that it's not just that. It's not just that He commands us. He loves us. 1 John 4:19, we love because He first loved us. And then in John 14:31, I do as the Father has commanded me, so that the world may know that I love the Father. And understand this, guys. He loves us, and that then starts our love for other people. We can now love because God loves us. He tells us these things for us to obey and to do because He loves us and He cares for us. So when my parents told me, Curtis, don't jump off the bed, it was because they loved me. Right? They didn't want me to get hurt. They knew that a 5-year-old jumping off a wooden bunk bed onto another wooden bunk bed was probably dangerous. And they loved me, and they wanted me to not get hurt. So I continued to jump, and then one time I decided I was going to pretend I was Superman, and just kind of like go out like this, But for some reason, I decided not to use my arms and hands. I just went out like this, and like I went off, and then like the front of the bunk bed, right on the forehead, just went straight down in the air. Would have been a perfect belly flop if I landed in the water. Instead, I landed on the wooden part with my head. And I remember getting right up in like shock because it hurt so bad. You know, like when you like hurt something, or like you hit your knee and you like can't breathe, like it hurts so bad. That's kind of what was going on. So I wasn't crying yet. So I hit, and I remember thinking two things, and this is one of the things that really has stuck with me for a long time. I remember thinking, man, that really hurts, and I should have listened to my mom. And then they brought me to the doctor and all that good stuff, and I had this huge, it almost looked like, through like the healing process, it looked like a rainbow on my forehead from the wooden bunk. So they told me, Curtis, don't jump off the bed. Why? It wasn't just a command because they wanted to be a dictator and just control every part of my life. That's not why God tells us to do things. Just because He wants us to follow Him, as if He's some dictator in heaven, He's want to control every part of us. No, it's because He loves us. My parents loved me. They wanted what was best for me. That's why we obey God. Because we believe, God, you know what's best for me. You want to take care of me. You want me to have the best life here on earth. And that's why I want to obey you, because you love me. Alright? And the next thing is, He created us. Genesis 1:27, so God created man in His own image. In the image of God, He created him. Male and female, He created them. And I want you to think, we're going to think just logically right here, alright? God created who? Us, alright? He created humans. He created us. He knows how our body works. He knows how it functions best. Even as scientists are finding new things about your body, like how cool is this or whatever, I already knew it. I know what's best for your body. I know what's best here in the world. I know how everything runs smoothly because I created it. So wouldn't it make sense that we would obey the one who created us? When He says, don't do this, you're like, oh, okay, I'm not going to do that because I don't know better. God created me. Alright, when God tells us, don't lie, don't cheat, all those things, to stay pure. Why? Because He loves us and He knows what's best for us. And what happens, guys, when we choose to disobey what God says, what we're saying? What we're telling God is, you know what, God? I got this. I know what's best for me right now. It's alright. I can handle it. I'm going to enjoy this. This is the best thing for me at the time. You know how stupid that is? We're telling the Creator who knows what's best for you and for me that we know better than Him. That's crazy. But I do it all the time too. When I choose to sin, when I know it's right and I don't do it, I'm telling God that I know better than Him. It's crazy. Alright, so why do we obey God? Why are we obedient? Because He commands us, but it's not just a command, and that's it. The command is filled with love. He gives us the command because He loves us, and He created us. So He knows what's best for you and for me. So, now that that's impressive. Like normally I try to like drown out what's going on back there, but that was really good. So, and I know all of you heard it and we're thinking the same thing. But it's actually good now that we all are awake again, right? All right, we're all awake. Now we just got to bring it back.
Yep.
That's the tough part. All right, guys. So now what? All right. I'm gonna give you a little bit of homework to do. Yeah, everyone loves homework, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we're on midterm.
All right. Well, guys, hopefully some of this is already going on. All right. I want you to think of two people. All right. Guys, stay with me just a little bit longer, and we're almost done. All right. I want you to think of two people right now. One person in your family, whether that's your brother, your sister, your mom, or your dad. All right. And then another Christian friend that you have. So whether that's at school, on your sports team, wherever, here in this room. All right, so 2 people, a family member and a Christian friend. You got it? Everyone got someone? And I want you to think of one way you can show them that you love them. One way. All right? It's not super hard.
Thank you.
And guys, but hold on. I want you to take it seriously. All right? I want this to be not just something you do every day. I want you to go out of your way. I want you to sacrifice something. Show them that you love them. Don't just say, "Hey, Mom, I love you." Show her that you love her. Do the dishes for her. Whatever. If I took yours, I'm sorry. But what I want you to do is next week, when you come to small groups, I want you to share with everyone in your group what you did. All right? And then the next part, this is more personal, all right? I want you guys to think. Right now, I want you to think of one sin, maybe this week, that you've or one command that the Lord is, that you know that the Lord has given you, that you're battling. You're battling like, you know what, God, I'd rather do this. I'd rather not listen. All right? I want you to think. I want you to go back and think through some of these ideas. He commands us. He loves us. He created us. And I want you to talk to the Lord and be honest with Him. Because when we choose to disobey the Lord, you're saying, "Lord, I don't trust that you know what's best." All right, so I want you to take sometime this week, and then small groups. If you want to share, that'd be great. And share what the Lord has taught you through that. All right? Is that clear? Everyone knows what they're doing?
Yeah.
Everyone? So then, when we come back 2 weeks from now, lucky you guys, I'm doing it again. So maybe it's lucky, maybe it's not, I don't know. But 2 weeks from now, I'm going to say, who remembers what we talked about 2 weeks ago? All right? And we're going to go through this, and you guys are all going to remember it. Right?
No promises.
All right. Didn't sound very good, but hopefully that's what we're getting.
Yeah, everyone's gonna look at it and go, I forgot.
I hope not. All right, guys. I'm just going to close in prayer, and then we're all set. All right, guys?